Hello, my name is Sophia Kail, and this is The Edge. I will be discussing the honor code today with Mrs. Pavlik. Even though cheating can help out students a little or get the homework done fast and simple, it can create students to not learn any new information and create them to get into bad habits for the future. This problem in Peters Township High School was solved by enforcing the honor code to more students. Enforcing it by many students have started doing their own homework and paying attention in school. Furthermore, the academic honor code has been preventing the act of cheating in school. The honor code is a system to have kids adapt to the real world so they can understand the concept that they have to work on their own if they want a full credit. In Trinity's university website, it states, as its core, the academic honor code must be based on trust. Because trust is the bond forms among all members of the community, it cannot exist independently or in a vacuum. Thus, it is essential that all members of the community conduct themselves in a way that exemplifies integrity. In this quote, it is saying that the honor code, once really looked at, comes back to the trust between students and the faculty. By having the honor code being enforced this year, hopefully the number of students cheating on tests decreases. In one college school's handbook, it stated students and faculty are obligated to ensure its success. The community pledge of personal academic integrity has formed the bias for academic conduct. This institution assumes that all students possesses the attributes implied by intellectual honesty. In this statement, it is explaining how academic honor code anything they are just writing down stuff, not going through notes, and understanding how answers is correct. They do their own homework, and the students won't understand the topic they are learning, and they might get worse and do the test than students who spend their time on doing homework. The honor code mainly enforced to have students complete their own work. In Rice's university website, it states, allow maximum freedom for students undergrading and graduate in the completion of all academic work, and to ensure the integrity that all work. This is one of the main reasons schools throughout the United States being the academic honor code to their school. If students start doing their own work, then they will start to understand the homework and do better in schools. Therefore, the honor code has brought students to the understanding that doing their own work would get them further in life and opening up from someone else. In conclusion, the honor code throughout the United States is preventing the act of academic integrity and is helping students adapting to the real world by doing this on their own. The honor code will be a great way to have students start obeying the rules of academic integrity. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely.
So how has the honor code how has it helped Peters Township this year?
I think it's brought to focus an issue that we've been discussing for the last few years, and that is what is academic integrity and what is cheating, because I think there's a lot of confusion among students, among faculty, about what causes our students to do what they do, what students interpret as cheating. And so it has kind of, by defining exactly what constitutes academic dishonesty and what cheating is, it's really helped bring a focus to that.
Mm-hmm. So why have you decided to bring it this year? Why did you bring the honor code this year to the school year?
Great question. Actually, a committee was formed. And so it came out of committee work, and there were actually students on the committee, teachers, there was a school board member and administrators. And we really started just having a discussion about what we're seeing in the classroom, what students are experiencing. We heard from the students, that they feel overstressed, sometimes overworked, and that causes them to make decisions maybe they wouldn't otherwise make. And so we really looked at what the problem was and what are some possible things we could do to come up with a solution for it. And from that work came the PT Honor Code.
Oh. So do you think the students care about cheating on tests and
I think students would probably tell you they don't, but I do think they care. I think, the desire to do well is what causes students to cheat. And so students want to do well, and they do want to learn and know what they're studying. There are things that sometimes get in the way of that, which leads us down a path of academic dishonesty. So I think that kids do care, and us giving them some tools to use to help them do better will help them in the long run.
Yeah. So since you enforced it this year, have you seen a change in cheating?
I think there's a focus on it. Has it decreased? I hope, but I don't have data to say it has or hasn't yet. But I think that more kids are talking about it. More students are talking to their teachers about it. So they're clarifying if they're unsure if an assignment can be done collaboratively now that they know. And they're also communicating when they're feeling overstressed. So I think right now we're starting to see just a shift in culture, and then maybe by the end of the year we'll have some data to say whether or not it's made a significant impact.
Yeah. So why did you bring it to Peters Township?
I think it was just because a lot of people were talking about it, and we felt like that was something we had to have a discussion about. The use of technology, cell phones, has made it very easy for kids to share work, for kids to take pictures, not photocopies, pictures of assignments, take pictures of tests. That upsets other kids, so then other kids report it. So it was something that we saw somewhat of an increase in with technology, and we thought we had to address it.
Is the honor code only enforced in the high school, or is it in McMurray?
It is K to 12. So the policy's in place K to 12. It may look a little different at the high school because of the nature of the work our kids do compared to the students at McMurray, but it is in place for the entire district and for all of our students. So within the next couple of years as kids enter the high school, it won't be something new to them.
So if a student gets caught, what are the consequences for that?
So for a first offense, depending on the severity of it, there's a referral to the office, parent contact. Usually the student doesn't get credit for the assignment or maybe gets a 0 on the test. And that typically is the discipline for that. With a second offense, then it increases, and it could be a detention, a suspension. But again, it depends on the severity of it. If a student plagiarized, let's say, an entire paper, the consequences for that might be a little bit greater than if just copying homework and not getting credit for that.
Yeah. So is it would the honor code change a way a student would learn in the classroom?
We hope so. So we hope that teachers have looked at it as well and thought about some of their own processes in class that maybe have contributed to cheating. For example, having students do a lot of worksheets or a lot of what kids will term as busy work. If a student knows the content, they don't need to keep practicing and practicing sometimes. And so maybe decreasing that will eliminate, that desire for kids to try to get something done really quickly and to copy it. So it has brought a little bit of a lens of focus on some of the practices we do. And hopefully that will increase kids' learning.
Yeah. So in the future, is there a way it could be improved somehow?
I think so. I think, as we continue to focus on it and get feedback from students and teachers, we'll probably make changes to it as time goes on. But first, we got to try and see how it works out.
Yeah. So do you think the honor code would change the way teachers teach their classes too?
I think it already has. So I think teachers are looking at how much they're assigning to students per night. They're talking to one another about when they're having tests and things like that. They're looking at their assignments and determining, is this something that is worthwhile for my students to do? And that is helping them make some better decisions.
So is there any other way you could, anything else you could do to prevent academic integrity instead of the honor code? Or is...
I don't know that there is. I think it's certainly something that students know not to cheat. What constitutes cheating is something that we have to have a conversation about to move forward. The honor code just makes it sort of a universal standard. This is what we're about. This is what we believe in. And so we're hoping that once that becomes sort of embedded in our culture, it will become less of a focus and just something that everybody knows and does.
And what would be like the teacher responsibilities for this?
Teachers have to monitor the work that they're doing in the class. If they suspect a student of cheating, they have to investigate it, contact home, contact the office. They have to know and understand the honor code themselves. So there is a large onus on the teachers to make sure that they are also enforcing it consistently.
Okay. So like, I know like, do the students have any like important responsibilities that they have to follow, like all the rules, like?
So students should be aware of what the honor code is. They should be aware that everything that they turn into class needs to be their own work in their own hand. If they're unsure if something is allowed to be done with another student or collaboratively, then they should seek clarification from the teacher. So really, it's just knowing and understanding what the policy is. So students can look in the student handbook and see the descriptors. There's a bulleted list of things that they should be aware of.
Yeah. So in like the younger schools, do you think like cheating happens a lot down there, or is it just like not as much as the high school?
I think it depends on the nature of the work and what you define as cheating. So I think younger kids, their work is more monitored by teachers, like in the classroom, especially when they're only, they're not really traveling from class to class. So there's a little bit more time for them to focus on their own work, and that's how teachers assess how they're learning. I do think it increases as kids go to middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Students get busy with outside things, they get jobs, and they start to cut corners a little bit. So I do think that it increases as they get to the high school.
Oh, God. So, like, since you just, like, this is a new policy in our school, have any, like, parents called you about it and, like, were, like, asking about it or complaining or anything?
Surprisingly, no. We have been pretty communicative with the community, with parents at the beginning, over the summer when we had, like, Welcome Back for the incoming ninth graders. We've shared it with our PTSA parents. We've advertised it. We've sent email blasts. So we've really had very few questions about it. And we also had parents as part of the committee that developed it. So I think that, they feel like they're a little bit, they're somewhat owners of it as well. And they share in this because it's something that we're all trying to instill in students today.
Okay, we will be right back. We're going to take a commercial break. Thank you for watching The Edge. Welcome back. So, how will academic integrity be stopped?
I don't know that it will be stopped. I think that academic integrity is an idea that we're just trying to instill in people. If you're referring to academic dishonesty, like how will cheating and stuff be stopped, I think it's just bringing awareness to what is happening.
So, how does the honor code relate to like the student code of conduct?
It is part of the student code of conduct. So that is something new that was added this year. So it's just another piece of what students need to know and understand about the work that they do here at the high school.
So does the honor code only apply to students, or is there more to it, I guess?
It actually applies to the adults in the building as well, in terms of expectations and what is expected of the administrators, the teachers, and the students. So it really is collaborative that we're all a part of the same process.
Do you think it will have a big impact on our school?
I do, and I'm hopeful that as time goes on, students will become more and more aware of how important their own learning is, and they will be vocal with their teachers when they're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and that they will start to understand that the learning that they do is their own. So, when you're copying somebody else's work, it's their learning that you're copying, not your own, and that's only going to hurt you in the end. The other piece of that is that we want to make sure that students know when they leave the high school, those types of activities, academic dishonesty, can really cause problems if somebody is used to cheating. You know, they could struggle in college. If they get caught cheating in college, they'll get kicked out. It could have, you know, long-standing impact on somebody if it becomes part of who they are and they work and in the workplace they're not honest. So it's really just sort of instilling that value in people.
So do you see like a difference between students who copy other people's work and students who like do their own?
Certainly. I mean, I think, you know, we have students who feel very pressured to share their work with others, and that's something that came out of our committee work. Students who said, you know, somebody will text them and say, hey, I practice until 9, can you send me a copy of, you know, such and such a worksheet? And so some of our kids really feel the stress of that. You know, they don't want to let their friends down, but at the same time they know what they're doing is wrong and they don't want to do it. But they also don't want to have some stigma of you know, not being a friend. So I think that there is a value in the work that people do on their own. Students who are dishonest in their work tend to struggle the most because they're not learning, and they find it sort of snowballs on them. You cheat on one thing, then you got to cheat on another thing. Like it just keeps happening, and they almost dig themselves into a hole.
Yeah. So do you think that like the students will start obeying the honor code?
I think so, and I think students have. I think that once attention was brought to it, students realized that if they don't, they could be in much more trouble than maybe in the past. So the other thing is, you know, our teachers are great people. And so they want to help a lot of students out. So sometimes in the past, you know, they'll catch a kid who's cheated on something, and they'll have a conversation with them, and they kind of let it go. Now they have to report that, and we have to document that, because that student might be the nicest kid, but might be getting themselves into some trouble and doing that in multiple classes. So now we can see if there's a pattern of behavior that we need to look at and address.
So what are like the students' responsibilities whenever they see another kid cheating on a test?
Students can report it, and they really should. It's an awkward position to be in, but students need to know that we keep that information confidential when we receive things like that. Most of the time, a student will go to the teacher and say, I believe this happened. And it could also be to protect themselves. You know, if you think somebody's cheated off of you, you could be just as much of an accomplice. Like you could also be in trouble. Somebody has the same answers as you. So by reporting it, at least you're saying, look, I think somebody was copying off my paper. I'm not sure. And then let the teacher investigate it.
Yeah. So what would happen if, like, say they saw someone cheating and they didn't say anything about it? Like the teacher knew or something?
A teacher may have a conversation with that student. It might lead to some parent contact and some conversation about what the honor code is and what that means. Again, it goes back to that idea, what you said in your opening about trust. You know, there needs to be trust between the learner and the educator. That, you know, what you're giving me to tell me what you've learned is accurate to what you know. Because if you don't know it, then there might be pieces of my work as an educator I need to go back and do again. So that's the reason we assess students. That's the reason we give students homework, so that they can practice, so that we can see what they're learning. And if they're not doing it, then we don't know. And so we can't address it.
So why do you think like academic integrity is so important in like schools and society kind of?
I think society has changed a little bit. Things move very quickly, and there's a lot of pressure on kids to be successful, to be more successful than their parents, to get into a top school. And so sometimes that pressure will cause people to do things they might not normally do. So I think that's one issue. I also think technology has just made it really easy to share work, which can be a great thing when you're working on something together. It can also be a bad thing if it's letting somebody get away with, you know, without doing their work and really learning or understanding what they're doing. So I think there's some adjustments we just need to make now that technology is so prevalent, so that we know what it means to do our own work.
Do you think that like, is the policy different from colleges to high schools? Like, are colleges more harsher with it?
Colleges are definitely more harsh with it. And actually our honor code, we looked at a lot of other high schools and what they had in place, and we looked at some colleges as well. A college is like a one and done. So, you know, if a student gets caught doing something dishonest in college, the college is done with them. They're removed from the program. In a high school, that's not the case. You know, our job is really to educate and prepare our kids for the future. So, you know, we're going to give students second, third, fourth chances at it. And there might be consequences along the way, but there hopefully are some conversations and some supports put in place to help the students so they don't feel like they need to cheat.
So, like, in the future, say, like, would you ever take away, like, those opportunities?
Which opportunities do you mean?
Like, for, like, say a student cheats and then it's their first offense. Would you just have one offense, or would you keep it the same as it is today?
I think probably the consequences are going to remain in effect. The natural consequence of cheating is usually a 0 on that assignment, which can really tank a grade. So that's a pretty significant consequence for students. So most likely, and that's pretty much been universal since I've been here. We're just now drawing a lot more attention to it.
Yeah. So whose idea mainly was it to bring it to Peters Township?
It was just a collaborative effort of teachers, students who were talking about it during executive council, and parents, and a school board member. So there was a lot of talk, so we decided to form a committee as a result.
So are we like the only, we're probably not the only school, but like, are we one of the schools in this like district area that has like an honor code enforced?
We're definitely not the only school that has an honor code enforced. We've made ours very visible and very public. So it may be the most visible one out there right now because it's so new, but a lot of the other neighboring schools have honor codes in place.
Okay. Thank you for joining me today. I had a really good time talking with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the show. This is The Edge. I mean, never mind. Oh, God. In conclusion, the honor code throughout the United States is preventing the act of academic integrity and is helping students adapting to the real world by doing their own thing. The honor code will be a great way to have students to start obeying the rules of academic integrity.